So, are we missing music?
Yes.
How? In what way?
We're all leaving the little space. I was thinking it was a long space.
It's a little bit too long.
You don't need that much room.
No.
No, I
No,
think yeah.
Yeah.
We're missing music because we're missing being able to be together to make music in person. I think that's the loss I'm hearing about the most. We love to hear music recorded. We love to talk about music, but making music together, at least in this group, is one of the things we love most to do. And I know it's what my students love to do. And missing that connection is really challenging right now.
Yeah, it's really tough. You can practice away in your own sound, but you really miss the sound of other people for sure. It's the communication, it's the connection, it's the musical conversation that is so normal to all of us that are in it all the time, and then when it's gone, it just feels like there's nowhere for that expression to go. So it's really hard. It's been great listening to all the things people have posted and put up online, all the fun things. That's helped a lot. But that live experience is tough to be without. And as Amy says, I'm hearing that from my students, just, can we please play together? Even outside, maybe 12 feet apart in the shade, can we play together? And I have to say, not yet, don't have permission yet. But it really is a loss. You can really feel the melancholy of missing each other.
Very strange times. I mean, in my life, I never had a situation where I didn't think about the next concert.
Yes.
And there was always scores to learn, although I'm forcing myself right now to study a lot too. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm into so many projects at this point. It's unbelievable. But it's kind of surreal that you don't know that you don't prepare for something concrete.
Right. I really miss the inspiration I get from everyone. Just as Amy and Sally have said, playing together, the communication is just so immediate and wonderful, and the conversation, but the inspiration, and I miss that from my students. I miss so much being able to adjust them physically, to show them physically, to it's just the back and forth is so much easier, of course, in person. This
Oh,
is
yes.
always a little bit awkward. There are some things about Zoom teaching that I've learned that are positives. The recording has been very instructive to my students. And I was always kind of reluctant to use recordings in teaching, and now I won't be so reluctant anymore. So,
Picking up on what you said, Yaki, about not having something to prepare for, I think is affecting a lot of us as well, because no practicing musician can ever afford to not be preparing, because there will be a moment that we must be prepared, but without the sense of urgency, not to mention just the fact that most of our lives are online right now, it feels like we're lacking a whole dimension, or we have an added dimension. I've been calling my virtual world my fourth dimension, and it feels difficult to keep up with in the same way. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Well, there is that. I have found too, it's kind of a time of dreaming because, as you say, Yaki, it's usually just on to the next, without so much time to think, especially when you're part of a family with a child, etc., which is a wonderful thing. But there is more space at the moment, and so it does give you time to imagine what would I really love to do, and when we're all up and going again, what should we really do, and sort of choices and ideas and just kind of dreams you can have are coming to the fore. So that's not so bad a thing.
Once I got over the shock of what we are into, 2 or 3 months ago, I think it was, I said to myself, in order to keep alive, you really have to set yourself some goals and some sense, you have to create a sense of purpose. Otherwise, it is so easy to get depressed in a reality as such. As a matter of fact, I had a wonderful visit with Mark, our chair of the board, Brown.
Right.
He's a therapist. And we start talking about, how much people have the need to really just release and communicate. And I say to him, this is a fantastic thing, obviously, to be able to communicate with people. But the interesting thing is that as much as we communicate, because of this real environment, time that we are experiencing, the time that we are going through now, there is a certain undercurrent melancholy that we cannot shake. And I spoke about it with a number of people, and everybody agreed. Yeah, there's something. As much as you want to hold on something, yeah, there's still helplessness in a way, just because obviously we don't know when the end of that will take place.
I think it's hard even to imagine now, at this point in time. It's actually hard for me to truly imagine coming out of this and being really healthy again. I guess that's the cause of melancholy for me. I realize that I can't totally imagine being completely free to be with people again, to hug people. Surely there will come that time, but it's hard to feature it. This just seems so endless. And I know it's not long. It's certainly not the longest pandemic that has ever been on Earth. There have been many others, and they've been much longer. So maybe we're just, we don't have the endurance that others did, or we'll find that we do have the endurance and we will make it through this and get together again. What I've been so deeply moved by, frankly, and inspired by, is my students' willingness and sort of tenacity to hang in there and do this. Some are playing on short little digital keyboards in Berkeley or in Detroit, and they're not complaining. They practice, they're prepared, and I'm just deeply impressed by that. So
There's something good to say about reality, the current reality, and what it forces us into.
right. No, the preparation necessary, the hard listening necessary. Yeah, those are really great lessons for our students. I agree.
And the need to watch our diet, because I'm sure that most of us are eating much better than the normal in those days.
I have to say, my older daughter's high school class entitled World Foods. When they went online in March, she had to do all of her World Foods homework at home. That was brilliant. She had to make all these complicated things that I personally don't know how to do, and we had to try them. And she had to send photos of what she had made, and it was such a great setup.
John, my wife, she's a fantastic gourmet cook.
Oh,
And for many years, she was executive director of a music school here in New York. So she really never had a chance to enjoy cooking and her gift. So now everything pours out wildly. So we're really having one feast after the other,
wow.
and a lot of walking.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's the other thing. My daughters have gotten us out into the wilderness. There aren't too many places a person can go recreationally right now, but the wilderness has been available. So both our daughters, and my younger daughter has a backpack for her dog. And so the dog can carry some of her supplies, but there's been something really refreshing about being completely away, no cell phone coverage, no way to keep up with work, no nothing, and you have everything you need on your back, which is, why I have to carry it with good posture for a violin player. But I mean, it's been a really wonderful time to disconnect, and that's been more important than ever because everything we do is on the computer right now. So I've been really thrilled that my kids have wanted to be outside. But when you said walking, it just made me realize that, yes, we were walking to the tune of 25 miles at a time, and I haven't been through that kind of walking before.
25 miles?
Yes.
Wow. That's amazing.
So maybe we're paying for our gourmet food in that way.
That's great. Well, my answer I live alone, and my son lives in Minneapolis with his partner and their new son, Emmett Theodore, who is 10 months old. And I've seen once when he was 1 month old. So I get videos every day. But so I have not seen Aaron and Ann. And I did get to see Elizabeth, my daughter. She lives in north of Salem. They came last weekend. But so I live alone. So my answer to living alone was to get a dog. So I went to the Humane Society. And first I got 2 cats who were crazy, the craziest cats I've ever had in my life. And I had to find another home for them because they were tearing up my house. So, but I got this beautiful German Shepherd who is 4 years old. I've never had a big dog. So I was actually a little afraid of her because she's very powerful. But I hired a woman to come, a dog whisperer, to come and help me, train me. And now Jade and I walk. I've not missed one morning ever. We walk 3 to 4 to 5 miles every day, and it gets me out in the morning. It's fantastic, and so that's been a bonus for me. I guess I would call that a bonus of the pandemic. So people take you very seriously when you're walking along with a German Shepherd. They don't threaten you or anything. So
Jackie, safe you will be.
I will be safe. The woman who helped me, she said, they are very smart dogs, and she will learn your commands, and if you're firm with her, and she's been very good with me. I've really been learning. But she said the one command she will never listen to is if someone tries to hurt you, or she will not listen to your command. She will go for that person and you will be safe. So I said, I'll take that. That's fine. But anyway, no, she's good company. So, and I saw a dog behind you, Sally.
Yes.
You have a dog, right?
See a sleeping dog here.
I saw in the very beginning. Oh, there she is.
Yeah, that's Piper. Piper's
Okay.
a collie. She's medium big size in terms of collies. And I had the same experience. She's a cream puff. She just loves people. But she's of the size that when I walk past some people, they back off a little bit. And she's so friendly that she always wants to go and say hello. And I have to remember some people actually don't want to. They're a little intimidated. And I guess the funniest thing is she loves little dogs. Like the smaller the better. She just adores them, and she wants to just go and say hello, and in the way that dogs do. And but not so many of the little dog owners want them to meet Piper, the strange dog, the size that she is, with all her fluff and teeth. So she doesn't get to meet so many little dogs, not as many as she'd like.
Actually, isn't it that the smallest dogs are the nastiest and the most fearless?
I think so.
They can be.
Right?
Yeah.
Amy, you should let's tell the truth about how many animals you have.
Oh, so you want to know that I have 2 dogs, 2 cats, and a bird? That's the lowest number in a while. I think our record is 2 dogs, 3 cats, and 2 birds. So yes, I love animals.
Somehow they all get on at your house.
Sometimes separately.
You are one busy lady.
Well, sometimes in the middle of class, one dog will start barking at somebody delivering mail, and the cat will run under the couch, realizing the other cat that doesn't get along with the first cat is already under there. There's a minor explosion, and I have to stop my camera and say, just a minute, I'll be right back. But, you know, again, we're hearing from the college administrators that actually helps the students because their lives are crazy like that. Maybe not with all the animals, but maybe their toddler sister or somebody spilled milk on their computer, or, you know, whatever it is that's happening. And people seem more prepared to accept the just the humanity of someone else because everyone is feeling vulnerable. And so the last thing I feel like doing is criticizing something that's not perfect. And not to like get on a soapbox about this, but that's actually something I hope to bring back into musical performance when we get back to it, because I feel that culture inside of how important we allow it to get to in our lives, that we need to be perfect. And then sometimes we don't share, and it's not a genuine representation of music. It's more like well, as long as I can deliver this exactly this way. And music means things to people in all sorts of ways. And when I'm not worried about being perfect, I can play better. And I think my students can too. So I'm hoping, honestly, that we can dial into some more of that when we are so delighted and thankful to be making music again together and to be hearing music live. I don't want to play worse. I don't want to not teach my students what they need to know, but I want to make music in an environment where it's more about the joy that you were talking about and the sharing and the communicating. I look forward to that. I really do. I'm hoping that's how it will turn out.
That's why I'm so delighted that you're joining the Walla Walla Symphony.
I am too.
You may be the only place that's going to do music this year, and no, I'm just kidding. Don't put that out there. But no, yeah, I'm anxious to play. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm really excited about the program plan that you have put together for this year.
So the three of you have a wonderful story to share. I mean, personal story about your past, your present, and your history with not just Whitman, but with music. So I kind of, I would love for you to maybe share a little bit about how you became so involved with music and your career as a teacher, and kind of, I'm sure that whoever is listening to this program would like to learn a little bit more. This is the one and only opportunity for us to learn a little bit of the other, dimensions in your life. So, who wants to study? Jackie, I know that I think you are at Whitman from 1987, 33 years.
Yeah. No,
and
I have
really developed a beautiful, beautiful presence and reality for yourself, and you're so incredibly respected, and I appreciate it because you really put your life into what you do, and I know it from my communication with not just faculty members but students, and I personally value your assistance a great deal over the years. So
that's remarkably kind. Thank you, Yaki. That's beautiful to hear. No, yes, I have been there a long time. That is very true. And, but I tried to run away from music because I thought growing up, I grew up here, and I always played the piano, and I always loved piano, and I wanted to study piano, and I wanted to be a concert pianist, and I also wanted to be a conductor, but I did think you had to be a Horowitz in order to have a career in music. I had that notion that unless I was a virtuosic powerhouse par excellence, there wasn't a place for me. But I also loved other things, so I majored in history in college, and then left college and came back to college, but I could not stay out of the music building. I couldn't physically do it. It was like a magnet. And so I just gave up and gave in and thought, well, let's see if I can do this, if I can make a career. Because by then I was a single mom with 2 little kids. And I thought, let's see see if this works. And it did, and I feel incredibly grateful and lucky and fortunate to be able
and appreciated and loved.
Well, thank you. But I mean, to have colleagues like Sally and Amy with whom I get to play, and people who sing that I get to play for, and I get to play in the symphony, which is just, it gives me the biggest thrill to come in there, even if I'm back in the very far corner, practically behind the curtain on the stage. It's really wonderful to be in that sound and making that glorious music. It's fun.
Sometimes the music that I assign you to play, if you'll have to sit in the front, I will feel so guilty.
Okay, well, let's get it done.
Do you remember the Anne Frank part?
Yes, yes. Yeah, no, that was just almost unplayable for me.
And you did a beautiful job.
Oh, thank you.
You really did. I hope you still keep the weight, the metal piece.
I have it in my.
Do you want to share with us?
Well, the score called for piano keys to be pressed down silently and held down on the. There was a certain span of keys, like a sixth or something. They all had to be held down, white keys, I believe. Meanwhile, you have to play with both hands something above that. And the only way I could get that done was to have Mark Anderson. I was complaining to Mark Anderson, who has the foundry here in town, or he did, he's now passed, that he said, oh, I can solve that. I'll make a weight for you. And so we measured the weight it would take and the length, and he made a beautiful, metal piece with a little handle on it. And we wrapped it in tape so it wouldn't scratch the keys. And I think Yaki, you used it in Portland then for your performance there even. Yes,
it's the only one. It's the only one of its kind in the world. Nothing like that exists. And the reason for that is that the weight should press the keys. That whenever she plays the upper octave, the upper register, the real notes, it vibrates. It creates overtones, So
wow.
I really must tell you, you did such a job, and you took it so seriously. Wonderful, really wonderful.
Yaki, thank you.
Yeah, no, it was really.
Thank you.
It gives me a great deal of pleasure when we do things like that. And as we come back to what we discussed before about the pleasure of making music and doing it without being constantly thinking of perfection only, which is obviously nice, yeah. But the bottom line is to really go through the process of discovery, the idea that we are dealing with something sublime that we develop and discover as we go forward. And that's exactly my approach, by the way, with the symphony.
I know that.
Step by step, and shaping things up and realizing, wow, there is a story behind those notes.
And then making it happen in a moment. And no, Yaki, you're really you're excellent at that. You're really good at that.
Thank you. Appreciate
it. Bringing a diverse group of people who've all had like a little practice or a lot of rehearsal or whatever. I mean, it's never totally even with everyone, but then in that moment in performance, there is almost always a magic that happens. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You do always hear the story with the symphony. You hear it in the sound and the color and the way each player relates to each other. It's really remarkable what unity you find and what unity the symphony has together. It's always a moving experience every time, and a sound world, or a remarkable sound world. And I know from being there how much you prioritize phrasing and sound and color, and I really appreciate that, because through dwelling on that and the story and the meaning, then the ensemble and all the details gel just beautifully because the right reasons are in the forefront. It's really a beautiful thing.
Sally, with you, there's more than one actually, but there's one experience that will stay with me for the rest of my life. working on the,
Elgar? Me too.
that
That
was
was so beautiful. Yeah.
it, that's what is all about. It's almost utopic to be able to work with a soloist the way we worked. How many times we met? Twice, three times? And we practically visited every note, every phrase microscopically, understanding what's the phrasing, where does the phrase goes, where it starts, where it ends, how it goes in relations to other elements, you know. And when we came to perform it finally, it was heaven, really true heaven, because we were not only on the same page, but it was like we came to the top of the mountain in regards to discovery. We was so rich with ideas that molded finally, you know, with the accompaniment. And it was really quite an experience for me.
Oh, thank you so much. It was for me. It felt truly like a partnership with you, and therefore a partnership with the orchestra. And my interpretation it expanded, it got bigger, it grew, it gained depth and drama through that partnership with you. And I so appreciate your interest and focus and absolute collaboration there. It was super special.
This is one of the greatest pleasure that I get from being a conductor. When I can come with a soloist, obviously with the orchestra, same, yeah. But when I have this soloist available for this kind of digging deep into things, yeah. I know that we have a mutual friend, Nathaniel Rosen.
Oh, yes.
We did together the Schumann twice, as a matter of fact. As a matter of fact, he was in Walla Walla too,
Oh my goodness, I would like to
playing
have
the
heard that.
Schumann. Yeah, yeah. Amy,
Yes, please do.
Yes, sir.
first of all, let's start with a mutual friend, Dorothy Follman.
Absolutely. One of my biggest mentors, my piano teacher from when I was young all the way through high school. She's a wonderful woman. How do you know her?
We communicated a great deal, and I worked with many of her students. And two of her students actually played concerti with the Portland Chamber Orchestra.
Probably
But
Benjamin Kim, right?
yes,
Yep.
so yes, he played the Schumann. So the she, I would come to her house, and we would spend hours there, you know, working with her students. And she was this kind of
Yep.
authoritative, you know, no nonsense. I understand that you were granted exclusive use of Guarneri.
Well, there is that. That was a really
So
exhilarating experience and also terrible. Yes, for
I,
4 years
I'm curious. Yeah,
yeah, for 4 years while I was in my doctoral program in LA, I was given exclusive use of a 1672 Andrea Guarneri violin, which lives in an instrument museum down there. And it had been donated by a woman who used to play it, and she was still alive when I was in school down there. So she would come to the recitals to hear her violin, and so we got acquainted in that way, which was really fun. But the thing about the Guarneri, and I mean, I still have to say I prefer a Guarneri model instrument even today among soloists. I mean, you gotta love the Strad sound and everything, but the I don't know, just the kind of mellow richness of the Guarneri
and
sound. Yeah,
darkness.
it's really always been what speaks to me. But for the first 3 or 4 weeks of having this violin in my possession, I couldn't play anything. And I had heard that a Guarneri will beat you up until you start to understand it. Like nothing would sound good. And sure enough, after quite a few weeks of practice, it suddenly started to feel right. And then it was as though I would just think about what I wanted to do or what I was feeling, and the violin would start to do it. And that was a really interesting experience because I hadn't realized how much of a partnership it could be prior to that time. But then, of course, that also informed my search for an instrument much later. And a couple of years ago in the David Kerr shop in Portland, they had a Matteo Gofriller violin. And I wasn't shopping in that kind of league, obviously, but the woman who was helping me there just slipped it in among these other violins. And it wasn't a Guarneri, but it was that same type of experience, kind of a viola of a violin, just melts into your hand, a little bit small, makes sounds that you normally have to work so hard for. And I was instantly spoiled because I was on this long search for a violin. And hadn't found something that really felt personal to me. But this violin was $500,000. I mean, it just was not going to be a conversation. So long story short, I don't know if this is what you were asking for, because you won't know this part, but long story short, I actually, over the past couple of years, have been on a violin search, kind of informed by that early Guarneri experience, and then playing in shops literally around the world. Sally had recommended me a shop in Britain that I visited. I went to a street called the Rue de Rome in Paris that's just lined with violin shops, and I went up and down playing all these instruments. Los Angeles, Seattle, and then finally in Portland, the violin that I ended up choosing was the one where I could hear the echoes and feel the reminiscence of the type of just warmth and enveloping personal sound that didn't feel like I had to do it. It felt more together. So I purchased that violin from David Kerr's shop last summer. And this is the part that's so fun. It was there on consignment and was in fact Susan Pickett's violin, which
It's a what? It's a what?
It's a Claude Puree Parisian violin, and was there in the shop on consignment because it belonged to Susan Pickett.
Having gone around the whole world.
Right. So it's right here.
Wow.
It's right here next to me, and I love it so much I can't even tell you. But I had to go around the world to kind of assure myself that I wasn't just kind of saying, oh, this must be good. I mean, I really tried all sorts of things, but I'm so excited about that sound and that, collaboration that it feels like with an instrument and a bow. Really almost as if it's for the first time again. And I mean, I've been doing this for, 40 years.
Is Mommy Pickett coming to visit the baby sometimes, or?
Well, remember, I played to Susan here and there, and so she has a lot of insight about this instrument, you can imagine.
Sally, what instrument are you playing?
I play a Samuel Bernard Fent. It's an English instrument, as it turns out. I was looking about a decade ago, and I didn't have any particular nationality in mind, but I described a sound to Rafael Carrobba in Seattle, who helped me look, and he said, "I think I've got one that you would really like." And so I've been happy with that for all this time. I recently was able to get a really nice bow, which is French, that goes with it. And in my bow search, similar to Amy, I went to Britain, and what was nice was I took my own cello with me, and it was the first time I'd taken my English cello to an English person of great wisdom in these areas, and the person, there's a shop dedicated to cellos, Tom Wood's, right by Trafalgar Square in London. It's a shop just filled with cellos, only cellos. It's so beautiful. And he heard the sound and said, Italian? And he said, wait a minute, that's the French sound. The French sound sounds Italian. And as we know, that's usually a compliment for string players. And he just loved my Fent, and also it was sort of greeted it like an old friend, and that was really fun to connect with him, and to hear that my Fent was indeed a Fent. Of course, it was Rafael Carrobba, but also to get his feedback on the sound, and that he said it was actually a very good one, and really highly regarded in the cello world.
Nice.
I'm very lucky.
Jackie, I want to tell you something. I'll feel remiss if I will not touch upon it. The EDI discussions that we are engaging ourselves in the symphony, it is so inspirational, I must tell you. And you doing a fantastic job. This is really so timely, and with or without the crisis that took place over the last few years, yeah, thank God we are into it now. Because not only I think it will make us a better people, but I think it will make us a better orchestra. And I think that one of the challenges is to really what can we do to expand the club?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
No, it is, well, I must say, during the pandemic, what did I say earlier? I don't really see the end to this. And yet, within this whole experience, we are, I feel like I'm learning a whole new perspective that I had thought I had known. I had thought I had been sophisticated in matters of race relations, and I marched against the Vietnam War and I marched for civil rights, and I don't think I was necessarily complacent, or maybe I was, but the events in the recent past and kind of are being propelled into these discussions has been enormously fruitful for me personally, and
Very enlightening.
it is, and it's been great to hear from the people we've had with us, Pedrito and Roger and Thomas, and I think we've all learned something. And of course, one of the great things is that we get to discover all this music that we've been only kind of dimly aware of. And so I am writing to Karen Walwyn. Is that how you say her last name? I have not completely.
She's the pianist, the soloist that will play the Florence Price piano concerto at the last concert, the final concert of next season.
Yeah, and she's also a composer. So, well, I'm inviting Karen Walwyn to come talk to us virtually, to talk to my students and any other students who might want to participate. I'll let you all know when she responds to me, but to talk about her life as a composer, how did she come to that, her life as a performer and a pianist and a teacher. She seems to value her teaching a lot. I gathered that from her website. So yeah, I can't wait to hear her. So I thought it would be fun. She gets to visit Walla Walla, hopefully in person in the spring, and we can have her virtually this fall to kind of get to know her.
Very generous individual. She's really wonderful, wonderful lady. We had a chance to really spend some time on the phone. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you know, but she's going to compose for us an opening piece for the same concert that she's playing the concerto.
I think that's great.
It's an all celebration of black music. It will be all festival practically, because she's going to give also lecture recital. I hope to involve the Whitman Choir in that, and it's really going to be very, very exciting.
Yeah.
I come from probably one of the most monolithic societies, kibbutz.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a country that actually is a very pluralistic. Yeah. I mean, most of the people are Jewish, but there's a lot of other nationalities and religions there. And I always, from the very time I remember myself, I always strived and I had this passion to engage in other cultures and to taste social realities. And it is coming to live in a place like Manhattan.
Yeah.
That gave me the sense of it's not utopic anymore. It is the reality where people from all over the world, all over, many cultures and religions and whatever, live together in peace, relatively. Nothing is perfect, obviously. There's always more to do.
I know you mentioned New York. I grew up here where most of the people have blondish hair, and because that was even prior when I grew up. Hispanic people came to work the fields, but they were migrant workers, and they did not stay. And so there were a few families here, Black and Hispanic, but not like the population we have now. So I can remember going to New York in the late 60s, my first time in that incredible city, and I couldn't believe everybody looked different from everyone else, and people were leaning out of windows and talking to other people who spoke a different language, and it was so fantastic. And I love that kind of world. We don't exactly have that in Walla Walla, but we have a rich culture here of different cultures, and we can just tap into it a little more thoroughly.
But another idea that came to mind, which I'm going to talk with Leah about, is engaging our financial institutions to help us to establish a special fund that will finance, that will cover the expense of a potential gifted young kid, enable them to really focus and with no any financial pressure and get the best teaching one can get.
That sounds fantastic. I think get as many participants as possible, and people, from institutions that are established, and get them to support. That can't help but bring a lot of other people on board, so that it's not just our trying to raise money. But I think that's a fantastic idea. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's important as well, because as I was speaking with a friend of mine the other day, he made an important point that it's not just making sure we get an opportunity for someone. We have to examine, why did they not already have that opportunity and I did, or someone else did? And when that comes down to resources, we need to make a difference in a large way so that that no longer is the dividing factor. And Black students and other people of color who haven't had the opportunities have continually paid the price by the assumptions being made that they can't do it or don't want to do it, but also not being heard that maybe they want to do it, but they want to do it differently. Maybe they want to play music by a different composer. Maybe they want to experience the culture of classical music, but not the way everyone who was white had envisioned it. And it was really a remarkable conversation, because I felt stretched beyond just making the opportunities that a white person has available to a Black person. It's finding out what opportunities do they want and what would they like to do with those opportunities, and how can we learn from the ways that they engage. And I have a lot to learn there, but I felt excited talking to him. I felt a certain energy and flow of ideas and a willingness to share musics, and I think that's where the programming is going. And so to put the financial piece in place, I think is huge.
My student from Ghana is able to join my studio class on Zoom, and it's just, I'm really looking forward to that exchange of culture as we get to know each other a bit better, the students, and this young man who is student age, but he's a member of the National Orchestra in Ghana, so he has a lot of that experience under his belt. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions flying both ways, and it's just going to be really exciting to see how that develops. And it was fun. I was in Ghana last year for a festival, and I work with a Ghanaian pianist, and we got to perform some songs based on traditional Ghanaian songs, and I had performed those to the composer who's recently passed away. But it was so fun to be there in that culture, performing those traditional songs, and seeing the audience recognize them and go, oh, I really enjoyed that, I know that song, I know that piece. And for me, as a classically trained musician, this is in classical format, it's cello and piano, but everything else is different. And so my friend, George Francois, the Ghanaian pianist, had to educate me with some patience as to how these new rhythms and nuances and language-based ideas work. And so that's such a wonderful time to grow and to experience something really new. And so there's so much we can gain and we can learn.
Yeah.
And I was so busy on that trip, but when I was supposed to be there this year, but if I get to go again, I want to hear a lot more of their, all the beautiful instruments they have there, a lot more of their music, and learn a lot more that way.
I believe that, banks and other financial institutions, it's an opportunity for them to go beyond just the statements of diversity.
Yep. Put their money where their mouth is,
That's
right?
exactly it.
And what's important to me is not just that we open the door and make sure that more people feel welcome into our world. I'm hoping it can feel more like their world too.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
So everybody, thank you so much. It was a little bit longer than expected.
Well, you kept on connecting from your computer, so what can you say?
No, this was very enjoyable. Thank you, Yaki. And thanks for letting us see your yellow living room. I love it.
I do too.
I will tell John.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And please be careful and keep safe, huh?
You too.
Same to you, because we want to make music in December.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.